Hi and welcome. This is a video on how to read a heating curve. The first thing you need to recognize is this is a graph of temperature in degrees Celsius in relation to time. Basically, this is just when you have a beaker of some sort of substance and you're heating it up. Usually you'll put it on a hot plate, and then you can turn the temperature on the hot plate up, and it will then give off heat into your beaker. You can think of this as a stove, like a stove at home you have in your kitchen. You take a pot of something, right, and you put it on top of the burner, and then you turn up the temperature there, and then it'll give off heat to the pot. So the hot plate is like the burner on a stove, and your pot is like whatever you have in your beaker or your substance. First, you start off with a solid. That then increases the heat, and eventually it will hit this plateau. And this plateau is where the solid is changing into a liquid. The liquid will then continue gaining heat until it hits a second plateau. The second plateau then changes into a gas. So the two different plateaus are basically just in-between phases, where the first one is where a solid turns into a liquid. So it's not really either a solid or a liquid at that point. It's kind of an in-between phase where it's changing from one to the other. This first plateau and the other plateau as well are both called phase changes. It's basically just where the substance is changing. This phase change has a number, and to find this number, we go across and we draw a dotted line to the y-axis, and here we see it's 25 degrees Celsius. That number is known as the melting point. The melting point is a specific temperature where the solid will turn into a liquid. So every specific substance has a specific melting point that can be determined. In this case, it would be 25 degrees Celsius. Similarly, we look at the second phase change, the second horizontal line, and we draw a horizontal line across, and here we see it is 65 degrees Celsius. This number is known as the boiling point. Now, the boiling point is just where the liquid is turning into a gas. You can think of this when you have a pot of water and you put it on the stove, that's your liquid, and then as the heat's increasing, you start seeing all these bubbling, and that's when you know it's called boiling. These little bubbles that are being created are the water molecules being turned into gas, and that's why it bubbles, because the gas is escaping. So in review, we have a solid turning into a liquid, that's called the melting point, the liquid then changing into a gas, which is called the boiling point. That's all you really need to know about a heating curve.